Hey, Barb. Oh, lovely. It's so good to see you guys. All right, so are you ready to take a trip? You did? Oh, good. Yeah, I sent you the first two tutorials, and then I'll send you this one as well. No later than end of day on Monday. Okay, Sonia? Okay, awesome. Thanks, Rex. So, let's jump right in. I want to be able to take you guys through my thought process. One of the questions I get an awful lot is, how do I plan out my pieces or do I design them on the fly? That's okay, Sonia. We are good friends of wonderful autocorrectness here, so don't worry about that at all. I knew what you meant. Hi, Heidi. How are you? All right, so we're going to go on a trip into my brain. So when I am getting ready to design a piece, every once in a while there'll be some inspiration that hits me that I, want to plan something out. That happens every once in a while. Normally my inspiration comes from color suggestions, and then the design itself is something that I kind of do on the fly. So even when I plan out a piece, even if I plan out the layout of a piece, and I plan out the colors, I still haven't necessarily decided on what patterns I'm going to use. Like, is it going to be all swoops? Is it going to be a mixture? A lot of walking dots, a lot of tiny dots, things like that. It kind of happens for me on the fly. Awesome. Thanks, Sonia. So when I'm thinking of something on the fly, hey, Sharon, I sometimes will come up with ideas that will be for a specific kind of piece, like an idea for a mug or an idea for a pendant or something like that. But on the days when I can just sit down and I have those moments to just paint whatever I want, that's kind of the process I want to go through with you. So not related to a custom order, not related to something that you've seen online, although that can be inspiration that you pull for it. But if you're just sitting down saying, I can paint whatever I want today, how do I want to do this? So the first thing that I'll do is I'll kind of grab a couple of things that I could paint on. So I've got one of these discs that are the gypsum discs that I can either make into coasters or incense holders. I've got a heart stone ready to go. So I kind of start to look at what I have ready, and then I look at the stuff that I don't have ready as well. Like, by ready, I mean these have the black base coat, so I can pick colors and start painting right away. If I'm kind of on the fence of what I want to paint, I gather everything together and I just see what needs base coats. I've got one of these little wood discs that has the hole in it that I can make a large necklace pendant out of. I have other projects that I can jump into. I've got a mug that I could paint on. But as I'm starting to gather these things up, hi Jagdish, hello, it's good to see you. As I'm gathering everything up, I start to kind of listen to myself. I listen to that inner dialogue that's always there, for me anyways, and I listen to what it's saying as I pick up each of these pieces. Like, do I really want to paint on that? Or I really just tend to hear, nah, I don't feel like that today. So I'll, like, for example, this one, I don't really feel like a pendant today. So it's a lot of really listening to yourself and really tuning into what do I want to do, right? Since I can do anything that I want to, what do I want to do? So I kind of look at the pieces and I think, okay, so if I was going to do one of these, what would I want to do with them? So with the little stone, well, I haven't done one of these in a while. So I could do one of these. I like the idea of doing something fairly small that can be nice and delicate. I could do a lot of micro dotting work on this, which is always appealing to me now that I've got that tool. So I could do a lot of micro dotting on this one. Hello, Renee from South Africa. This is so cool. So then I asked myself, okay, well, is that something I want to do, right? With the hearts, I've been on a little bit of a roll doing a lot of, I've done a couple hearts already, but I've only done a couple of them. I haven't got a whole bunch of them. So I'm not tired of this piece, right? I'm still enjoying working on these hearts. So immediately when I look at the little mini stoner versus the heart, I immediately would rather do the heart. So I'm just listening to myself again. And I could do more incense holders. I immediately start to think of what's on deck for the next little while. Am I going to be doing resin in the next little while? Because if I'm just going to paint it for the sake of painting it, that's okay. But I have to also kind of say to myself, how long is this going to be sitting out before it's actually completely finished? And for one of these discs, for me, that means resin, and that means painting the bottom, putting the felt on the bottom, being ready to drill the hole. But the resin is the big part. So always think too of how do you finish the piece? Because in a perfect world, you'd want to be finishing your pieces fairly quickly and all together, or at least bulking them together and saying, I've got 5 pieces that need varnish. So I'll work on those to finish them all so I can varnish them all at the same time. Or I've got a whole bunch of pieces that need to be resined, so adding one more isn't going to be too big of a deal, right? So there's all of these things that I tend to think about when I'm picking the actual piece. I still keep looking back at this heart and I just really want to do another heart. So I'm going to go with that gut feeling, put that there, and move my other stuff out of the way. Okay, so now that I have this one, what I typically do is I'll grab a couple other pieces that I've already done just to revisit these pieces and say, okay, what did I like about them? Is there a pattern here that I want to do again? And is there anything about these previous ones that I don't like? And then I look at the design. Yes, go from your heart, exactly, right? And that's where it can be really, really gratifying, but it can slow down the process a little bit. So I've got a couple designs, right, that I've done. This one with the spaces in between, so I could add those little dots. These are in rose gold. I have this one where the dots are much closer together. Oh, thank you, Erica. Thanks, Jagdish. So both of these are basically the same design, but with a little bit more space left between each of the dots here in the teal one. This rainbow one, I'm doing very similar to this pink one. So immediately I want to kind of sit and think for a second and say, okay, which one do I want to do today? What kind of mood am I going for? I know that this one takes more thought process from me in the beginning anyway, because I am normally the person who packs in all of these dots in a very small place. Thanks, Renee. So this one takes a little bit more thought for me because I have to leave some space, and I fill in these tiny dots well after this design is done. So I kind of have to sit and decide, do I want to leave these spaces or do I want to just go and pack them all in? My thought is I want to do another one like this. This is a lot of gut feeling, and it's really about being in touch with what you're feeling and what you want to do. When you're doing this as a business, that can be really difficult because you're thinking, well, what are people going to want to buy? What did they like before? Do I have the capability to do multiples of these pieces, or is it going to be a one of a kind and then none of these other pieces coming up again? So trying to remind yourself, at least if you're doing this as a business as well, this is an opportunity for me to do something that's just for me. Yes, I know that people will like them. I've had enough feedback on these stones to know that that people really like them. But what is the thing that I want to do the most? And when you have those moments to do something and create, whether it's painting, whether it's drawing, whatever it is that you like to create, whether it's writing, all those different things, what do you want to do when you're doing it solely for yourself, not to appeal to anybody else? You're only doing it for you, right? That's when you want to really sit in and really connect with yourself and say, what do I actually want to do? What is going to feel good from start to finish for me? Does that make sense, you guys? Thanks, Jerry Lynn. So how do I get the dots over the edge so perfect? So here is the trick with going over the edges. And this is the trick with all dot painting, as far as I'm concerned anyway, in my opinion, is really taking your time. If you try to go too quickly, it will likely, has a much higher chance anyway, of backfiring. So when it comes to doing these edges, like even this one, I screwed that one up. I've got to fix that, especially before the giveaway, because this is going to be one of the giveaways. I completely forgot about that piece. I want to really be able to take my time. So this kind of painting as well, it can do one of two things. If you're already kind of amped up and you're feeling tense and you're feeling stressed out, it can help you just get out some of that negative energy. And it can be very, very calming. And if you are already in a calm, good headspace that way, in a positive headspace, then it can just accentuate that, right? It's a very calming practice, but you have to know if you're in the mood to take your time and work slowly and let it progress at a natural pace and really kind of sink into it. I hope that that makes sense. It's all about taking your time, right? Always take your time. Watch your spacing. This particular design is a really good design to practice, to work on your dot consistency for the sizes and on your spacing. And when I got to these ones on the side, I moved so unbelievably slowly. Much slower than I did on the top. I hope that answers your question, Heidi. Travis, the people like purple, right? People love purple, and I love purple too. And it's a matter of making sure that when you sit down to paint, are you doing something for yourself or are you doing it for other people? And neither thing is a wrong thing. Neither thing is bad. But just be really honest with yourself of, why am I doing this today? Am I doing it because I want it to appeal to people, or am I doing it because it just feels good for me to do it? What I tend to find is that even when I am doing something that is just for me, that's when I'll try out different patterns, try out something new, try out a different color combination. But it's also when I find that I will come up with some of the most beautiful things that I've ever done when I'm just doing it for me, and then it can spur on, and then I can do more of it later for other people if they like it. But it's has to be all about the gratification for yourself. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so first, the next thing I want to do, I've decided I'm going to work on a pattern like this. So I want to do a color grade like this again. So I want to choose a single color or a combination of two colors that I can fade from one of those colors into another. So this is the one I'm going to leave out in front of me. I'm going to move these ones off to the side. And I'm going to sit and think about, what do I want to do? What colors are really calling to me? I have not been in a good headspace this morning. I haven't been, hey Carmen, thank you. I haven't been in the best headspace this morning. And it's just a fact. I've been very tense. I've been very short-tempered. I've been very just intense this morning. So immediately I want to find something that calms me, because that's my purpose for painting today, right? When I'm thinking about painting something like this, I think I want to do something that calms me. I want to pick something that I'm going to feel really good about moving forward through. Such an important lesson when you make something with love, especially for yourself. Totally. And you can feel the love going into it, right? And it's one of the realizations that I came to the other day. I have a really hard time. I'm taking a course in Australia, and one of the things I've always struggled with is, how do you answer those people who say, how's your business going? How's everything going with the business? Because I don't make a ton of sales. I'm still working at the very beginning of this and really learning what I need to do and what I don't need to do in order to make this a viable business. So I'm learning a lot and I'm failing a lot, and that's okay. But when it comes to talking to people, I always struggled. And I had this conversation on my course the other day, and the thing that kind of came out of it is, I have nothing to be ashamed of. I am working my butt off. I am embracing my passion, and things will come, right? Sometimes your faith just gets a little shaken and say, am I doing the right things? Am I doing things wrong? We can do this whatever way we want to, right? So since I can do this any way I want to, how do I want to do it? And I want to do it by creating things that make me stay in the mindset and make it very easy for me to always remember that I love what I do, right? So before you choose your colors and before you choose your piece that you're going to paint on, sit with yourself for a minute and say, how am I feeling today? Am I feeling positive? Do I want to perpetuate a positive feeling? Or am I struggling a little bit today? Am I feeling a little heavier than I normally do? And do I want to help to lift those spirits a little bit? I miss you too, Carmen. How are you guys doing? I hope you guys are doing good. Carmen, you guys, is one of my friends from my dealership life. And so I'm so excited that you're here, Carmen. This makes me so happy. And you're going to love this little group that we got here, Carmen. We have so much love in here. It's wonderful. And anybody else who's new to these lives, I hope, if nothing else, when you sit and hang out with me and some of the people that come to the lives on a regular basis, you just feel like you're in a space that is a safe place, that is a comfortable place, a place that fosters authenticity and love and all of that. So I hope you feel that coming to you. Yes, and there's nothing wrong with having inventory set aside for when the market comes back and exactly. 100%. And there are still lots of people out there buying it. And I think when we get into a place of fear, right? And it's one of the things that I've practiced a lot. I'm developing that muscle of being able to really look at myself and say, okay, am I wanting to make that because I think it's going to sell and I'm coming from a place of fear? Because if I'm coming from a place of fear, my artwork does suffer. I've seen it. It happens all the time. So it's really about getting to know yourself and what does it mean for you and what you create when you're in a certain mindset. The other thing that I've kind of come to terms with as well is that if I'm in a negative mindset, what I create doesn't have to be beautiful. For me, it's the process of creating. Whether it turns out nicely or not is really on the back burner. If it turns out great, wonderful. But if I'm sitting down to paint for me, to help my mindset, to help my thought processes, whatever that is, I have to be totally okay with it turning out like absolute garbage and hating it. Right? Because then if it's always about the outcome and what comes out of it, you won't enjoy the process. The best moments for me are when I get painting and I start to put together this color combination and it really starts to come to life, and I get those moments where I just look at it and go, ooh, oh yeah, this is good. Let's keep going, right? Those are the ones that feel really, really good to me. So I hope that helps kind of give you a little bit of insight into my mind and how I kind of go through some of these pieces. Hi, Belbeer. How are you? And you and Jen are working from home now. That's wonderful. Thank you, Jagdish. Hi, Jan. Lurk away, my loves. Lurk away. I'm just happy you're here. Okay, so the next thing I do is I actually sit and I look at all of my paints. Right? So let's move this light out of the way so you can see a little bit. I look at my paints. I look at all these little paint pots that I have sitting around. I look at my cabinet. This little box, by the way, I got at Michael's for, I think it was $24 regular price, and I used a 40% off coupon on it. And then I just painted it purple when I got home. I can't wait to buy more of these. Now, it's good for these paints, like this size of a paint. Okay, if you have the larger bottles, like I also have over here, in here, and in this box over here is this size bottle. So the comparison of the two sizes for you. Okay, so this one goes well in the square purple one. These ones I just put in boxes that I got from the dollar store and painted them colors myself. So I sit and I look at the colors, and I really just sit and stare at the colors for a little while, and I say, okay, where does my eye keep landing, right? When I'm looking around at all of these colors, where do I find my gaze is sticking? Where is it falling to? So I'm just going to sit for a quick second and look at this, and then we'll go through it. Okay, my eye is resting on green, it's also resting on blues. It is resting on this blue in particular, which is Mediterranean Blue by Craftsmart. And it's also resting on this green, which is kind of, it's called leaf green. It's kind of a khaki green. Now, the other thing that it's resting on is this bright lime green. There's a big part of me that wants to do a color grade between these two. Start off on one and move to the other. I think that would be really, really fun. I have no idea how it's going to look. Yeah, I have no idea how that's going to turn out. So my next step will be, it doesn't have to turn out, right? Let's just mix some colors and see what happens. And once I mix the colors in the paint pots, maybe that will spark it for me to say, yep, this is a really good choice. I'm really happy with this. So I get out a bunch of these little paint pots, and I want to mix about 5 different colors. So I'll show you how I do that. I find this part really enjoyable too. Even if I mix a bunch of colors and then I decide to go a completely different direction, I don't really care because I've usually enjoying creating some different colors. So in one of these paint pots, how are you liking working from home, Carmen, while I'm thinking of it? So I take the blue, right? I'm going to have 5 different paint pots. So I'm going to put a bunch in this one. So this is my color number 1. I'm going to put a bunch of this green, this nice lime green. I'm going to put that in one of these as well. Okay, so those are my 2 end colors. Now I want to fill in the 3 spots in the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in, so I count a lot when I'm pouring my paints. Thanks, Rex. Wondering how you make the transition between colors. And it may or may not go well, right? Totally okay if this does not go well. So I am going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4. The one in the middle, I usually do 50-50. So I'll put a little bit more paint in that one. And sorry, this one is going to be like a 3-to-1 ratio. So I'm going to add a little bit more, and I'll add some blue to that one. And in this one, I'm going to put the least amount of green. Just enough to kind of cover the bottom. Okay, so that's the first thing I do, is I look at my colors and I say, I will have, if I'm looking at out of 4 parts, I've got 1 part green in here, 2 parts green in here, and 3 parts green over here. Okay, so now it's going to go in this order, right? So now I'm going to put 3 parts blue in this one. I'll fill it all the way up to there. I'm going to put 2 parts blue in this one. And then I'm going to put 1 part blue in this one. Okay, now we're just going to stir, stir, stir. I get these little stir stick thingies from the dollar store, and I reuse them all the time. They're fantastic. Wondering how you're going to I was going to get between those colors. Enjoy seeing the pups every day. I miss my coworkers. Oh, yeah, that's hard to spend your whole working life in your bedroom, eh? All right, so I'm going to stir. Color mixing is my favorite part. Isn't it wonderful? And again, even when it doesn't work out the way you wanted it to, it's okay. Right, so we're going to start stirring. I tilt it on the side, try and make sure I'm scraping all the paint off of the bottom. Sometimes I'll use a paintbrush to kind of speed along the process. I'm going to try and hold my arms up here so that I'm not shaking the camera too much. And I also look on the outside. So see how there's still a lot of green on the outside? That tells me I'm not mixed enough yet. So I just start kind of going along the sides and start trying to pick up that green that's stuck on the sides. Now this one I need to be bluer than green, so this is turning out good so far. It's got that hint of green in it. Let's see. You know what? I'm actually going to grab a brush. I think I'm going to grab a little brush that I can mix with. That might help on the bottom. Don't feel like working from home, you miss your team. Yeah, a lot of people are having a hard time with that, right? It's hard. Some people function better as being in person with the team, and other people, I hope that there will be employers that will start to look at where their employees are happiest and most productive. I think that that would be an incredible thing for companies to be able to do. All right, so see how it's turning that nice kind of bluey teal color now? I think that looks pretty nice so far. So here's what I'm also going to do is I'm going to grab where is it? I have a little test canvas. So I'm going to grab my test canvas and I'm going to put just a little bit of this blue here. And then I'm going to put a little bit of the other blue in it. Just got to rinse my brush. Usually when I'm by myself, I just use like 5 different brushes and throw them in the water and move on with life. I do that a lot too. I get very lazy when it comes to cleaning my tools. Most of my brushes sit in water for 3 or 4 days. And then let's put a little bit of this blue here so we can see how that looks. Right, so I'll put these ones together just so I can see how they all look together. So I'm going to rinse off my brush again, give it a good dry, because I don't want to add too much water to the mixture that I'm stirring, right? What is the shelf life of unused paint if well sealed? I think it can last a really, really long time. I had a bunch of these paint pots in a drawer, and I want to say I had them in that drawer for at least a good 6 months. And a lot of them were still really good, so I was still able to get paint. In these little pots, you probably get a lot of like the crustiness. Even in the big bottles, you'll get some crustiness near the top that you might want to clean out before you start shaking it up and mixing it up so you don't get clumps in the paint. But for the most part, it can last a good solid long time. Oh, this is pretty. I should just leave it swirly like that. That's really pretty. So just give it a good stir. Let's see. Well, this is looking pretty good, I think. Okay, so that's that one. And I'm going to put a little bit of that on the test canvas as well. So you can see the 3 colors coming along well so far. Close up my blue and then rinse my brush again. I love every bit of this part of the process. Love it, love it, love it. Okay. So while I'm mixing the paint, I'm still looking at the piece that I'm going to be painting. And I'm starting to think, okay, of these colors that I'm starting to create, what do I want the center dot color to be? Do I want to start out off dark? Do I want to start off with the bright green and move my way that way? So I just kind of start thinking about that, of where I want to start. And it usually comes to which color paint do I want to see on this piece first? Because the center dot is going to kind of help us see what that, what the focal piece color is going to be. So here we go. Oh, nice mixing of the green. So this one is the 3-to-1 with green as the dominant color. And you can create as many of these as you want, right? I could go back in now and I could create more gradients in between each of these and create a 10-color gradient if I wanted to, right? It's totally up to you. So even when I'm choosing colors like this, I'm not completely committed to the color, because sometimes when I'm just sitting and relaxing and mixing paints, another color idea will come to me, and that's okay too. Right, so here's the next color. It's looking good so far, I think. What do you guys think? And you can do this with any colors that you have. You know, yellow to pink can look really nice and give you a nice coral in the middle. The thing to remember is that it's really almost that the colors in the middle are going to be your dominant colors, right? So if you want blue to be a dominant color, you want to almost make this blue the center and then grade it out in either direction. You can pick and choose though, right? But you could do this with any color combination you want. Pinks to purples, pinks to reds. You could kind of, and just play around with that. As soon as you start to mix a couple of paints that don't go well together or go muddy or anything like that, you're going to know it and you're going to feel it and you're going to look at it and say, ugh, I don't want to do that, right? But so far, I'm really liking these colors. So now I'm going to put this last little bit of green right here. And that's going to finish off my 5 colors. What do you think? Looks all right, eh? Okay, so my next thing that I have to ask myself is, if I'm going to put little dots in here, like these rose gold ones, do I want them to be a similar color like this? How do I want to do them? And I don't have to decide that right now, but it's something in the back of my head. Victoria, I'm honestly not sure. I would guess that if you go onto Pinterest, there's probably a lot there for that. I've done all of mine just from, and check out Christina Lee. Because she does a lot of color theory in her Facebook page and her tutorials. She might be a really good resource for you, Victoria. So those are the 5 colors that we're going to go with. So what I think I'm going to do when I'm looking at this, I think I want to start it with the blue. Okay, so if I wasn't happy with these colors, I'd mix some new ones, but I'm really happy with those different colors that we have there. So now it's time to prepare the piece and get some stencils on there. So let's see if I can get a better angle at this. I'm gonna actually pull this closer and pull the camera a bit closer so that I can see a little bit better, and hopefully this is a good angle for you guys. You're welcome, Victoria. Bye, Travis. Take care, love. The message you sent to Mom meant the absolute world to her. Thank you for that. She's struggling a little bit, so thank you. Okay, so what I'll do, the nice part when you have something that you've already worked on is it can give you a guideline. So I kind of put my stencil. I got this stencil from the Happy Dotting Company, I believe, but you can also get them on Etsy. And they're fantastic for helping center and everything. So I kind of look at where this one's centered, and I look at where on the stencil it lines up here in the little dip in the heart. So I know it's just below this second notch. So I'm going to grab this and bring this back. And I'm going to set this up. I'm also watching the sides here to make sure that the same amount is kind of showing in this stencil. And I'm going to move this up just a little bit to there. So when I'm using a stencil like this too, I don't do the center dot here. I like to have a couple other guidelines. So I'm just going to mark these 4. This is the time too where I kind of talk to myself and say, okay, does the pattern that I'm using, does it need more guidelines than this? Because I'm comfortable with this pattern, I don't need any other guidelines like this, but you can add as many guidelines as you want, and you don't have to use them. Just because you put them on the piece doesn't mean you have to follow the guidelines. Check out the tutorial on guidelines because that might be helpful for you, because you don't have to follow them, okay? They're there just to kind of help you out. Now, I always go over it with just a little light eraser, using these pencils, charcoal pencils, watercolor pencil crayons. They leave just a little bit of a buildup that when you dot over it, it can impact the size of your dots and the shape of your dots. Sorry. So I always do this because this helps me when I'm going to place my center dot. I can kind of hold it up and I can make sure that it looks like this is on, I'm splitting it in quarters properly with the tool. Like, is it overlapping in the different spots in the right spot, and in the same on both. So next step, now that I've got the guidelines there, I am going to choose my center dot size. So assuming that I had never done one before, I want to kind of choose something that's fairly large, that's going to give me lots of room to put lots of tiny dots around it, but not something that's going to take up too much of the piece. So for example, I've got these really large dotting tools here. If I was to put this on here, that would take up a huge chunk of the piece. Nothing wrong with that, but I don't like that much of it to be taken up with the center dot. I'd rather more of the stone be taken up with actual design and the pattern. So this is too large for me. So I'm going to keep going down and looking at sizes until, keep grabbing different sizes of your tools, whatever it is you're using, crochet hooks, drill bits, Q-tips, pencils, whatever you have, and find one that you're kind of happy with how the size looks. I kind of like that one. So this one for reference is the DIY Mandala Stones tools. You can get these on Etsy. They're fantastic. And I'm looking at a size 22. So because I have decided that I'm going to start with blue, I got my blue out here. And now when I'm putting the center dot down, I kind of lift it up a little bit. Now, when I'm designing on the fly as well, I do like to kind of leave myself open. Like if I get going on this one and I decide that I don't want to do just the color grade like I had in the other ones, I can switch it anytime I want. If I want to start adding some swoops in, I could make this one all swoops. Ooh, that would be fun. Oh, well, that might be interesting. I think I'm going to need another guideline for that. Okay, so sit tight. I'm going to wipe this one off. We're going to start new. I'm going to wipe this dot off because I'm going to draw some other guidelines on here because we're going to do a whole bunch of swoops in all of these colors. So I wipe that off. Stressful for people sometimes when they see me do this. I apologize if that caused you any stress watching me wipe that off. But I go through this an awful lot. Right, and that's actually stayed really nice, so I don't have to paint back over it in black. I'm just going to let it dry for a second, and I'm going to draw my other guidelines on here. So when I'm doing swoops, the reason why I like to have the extra guidelines is because when I am deciding how far out to put the swoops before I drag them back inwards, I have to make sure that they're all going to be kind of at the same spot, right? That they're all going to be, they're all going to be coming out as far, right? So for example, if I had a center dot in here and I started putting swoops out here and I didn't have a guideline, some of them could end up here, some of them could be down here. It's not going to be that dramatic of a difference, but it's still not going to be nice and even. So I really like to go through it and add a couple extra guidelines, at least for a little bit, so that I can have a good starting off point for where these are going to go. So I've got those 4 little spots again. I'm going to join them up to find my center. And this time, before I erase, I'm going to go in with my compass and I'm going to draw some more lines. I could use the stencil. The reason I typically don't use the stencil is because these don't join up. I like to have a solid line all the way around. That's just personal preference though. You might find that you do quite well with just the stencil. That's totally okay. It screws up my spacing and it screws up my eye a little bit for knowing if things are lined up properly. So that's why I stick with using my compass to draw that on. So we're going to start here. I'm going to bring it in. We're going to start drawing. Oops. I'm going to move this over a little because I'm afraid I'm going to hit the camera. So let's see here. It's because I had the pencils too long. If you have to lean this back too far, I don't know if you can see that. If you have to lean it back too far, chances are it's going to skip. So one of the things that I do a lot is I will adjust this little screw on the fly so that I have a nice straight up and down, and let the pencil hit, and then I will do it. I would rather lean towards the pencil than away from the pencil. Oops, maybe. Maybe I'm totally lying that neither of them are going to work well for me today. Okay, so now I'm actually going to go in a little bit closer. It's still telling me that this is just my pencil still being too long. This is not helping me today. One thing that you can do too, and I used to have one and I've lost it somewhere in the move, is a stencil that has a bunch of circles, different size circles. If I could find that, I would be using that on this instead of the compass. But now I'm just going to go and I'm going to keep putting down more of these circles. Just so that I've got lots of options as I go along with this piece. I have no idea what I'm going to do with the swoops when they get to the edges, but we'll figure that out. That's another thing that we'll just figure out on the fly. So I'm just going to mark these out, and then we'll deal with the sides when we get to them. Sometimes I do that. A little avoidance never hurt anybody. All right, here we go. Carmen, if you're still here, did Tyler have his baby? All right, let's see. Okay, back to the center dot. I'm still going in with a size 22. I'm still going to use the same size. And we're going to go right here. Sometimes it's nice too to have that line, that circle in the middle, because it can really help you to put everything centered. Now, I forgot to erase my lines. Not a big deal. I can go in at any point and erase those lines a little bit. So I'm going to do that here. I'm going to go in with my pencil. Oh, no, I'm not going to go in with my pencil eraser. That's terrible. Go in with my small eraser here. Right, and I'm just going to very lightly go around this. This was not smart, but this is what happens when I do things on the fly. So this is not the way I would recommend you do it. Always try and erase before you put your center dot down. The number of times I do that though, like again, this is just real of how I go through this. This is a very common thing that I do, is I get too excited and I get the center dot down and then I don't go and erase it properly. And you risk getting eraser shavings in there. That's why you don't see me brush it off yet. And I don't blow on it, because what I'm going to do is take a paintbrush. Whoops, and I'm going to move ya. There we go. I take a paintbrush and I just go and remove all of these shavings with a brush. I am not known for doing things the easy way. So when I've taught other tutorials, I try to show you the way that I do things the easiest. But in reality, on my day-to-day, I don't do things the easy way. I tend to make my life fairly difficult. And I'm actually just going to go back in and put a little bit more paint on and fix that little spot that I smudged. I don't know if you can see that there where I smudged it. So I'm just going to put a little bit more paint on, and that will cover up that smudge. There we go. All right, there we go. Do be careful not making your center dots too thick either, because it could backfire on you and not dry properly. Cracking can sometimes happen when your paints are very, very thin, because the edges dry faster than the center of the dot, and that can result in, what's the word I'm looking for? It can result in cracks in your center dot. I don't typically panic on it if it's a dot because I can always add top dots and that'll cover it up. Even if you don't plan on using top dots, you can always use top dots to cover up something like that. Okay, so now I'm going to go in, and I know that I need to leave spaces. So again, I don't want to make my first row super tight like this one. I want to leave spaces so that I can go in and add these little micro dots in the middle. So I'm not going to put them super close together. So when I'm centering these out, I always follow the same process for myself. I dot at 12 o'clock. Then I spin it around. I'm actually going to put this up on a sponge. This helps me too. I get these little round sponges at the dollar store, and I set them on here. It raises it up a little, and it makes it really easy to spin. 6 o'clock. So I dot at 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and I just keep turning it so that I'm always dotting basically at 12 o'clock. Right, so, and again, this is where I'm not necessarily using the guidelines. I'm using what looks the middle between those two. You can totally use the guidelines too, though. Okay, so I've got my first 4 dots laid out. So now I'm going to do this one in the middle. So I'm always dividing these sections in half. Right, creating the same size dot. So my brain automatically wants to go to, well, what colored little micro dots are you going to do? So I have a lot of conversations with myself that say, you don't need to know that right now. It's okay. You'll figure it out as it gets going. You won't really know what you want to do until you see it all together anyway. So just keep going. And I say that to myself an awful lot. Just keep going. It's going to be fine. So now I'm just going in and dividing that up. And I can see that I have a nice space left between those to go in and do one of those little micro dots. So I'm going to do that for the first row, but then we're going to do some swoops in the next color. And this is where you can really have some fun, because you can change this up any way you want. You don't have to make each row the exact same color. I could make each quadrant a different color if I wanted to. It's completely up to you how you want to lay this all out. So I'm going to go in and do some swoops on the next one with the next color, which is going to be the greener green. So there's the next green. So just to refresh your memory, these are the 5 colors we have, right? We've got the blue mixed out to the green. So I'm in the middle color now, and I'm going to pick a size tool to do the first set of swoops. Now, I am going to do the swoops where I go in with the push pin at the end of my pencil. So I have a pin that I stick into the end of a pencil eraser that I chopped off. I used some tin snips and snipped it all off, and I push the pin into the bottom of the eraser. And this is what I use to pull the paint down into the swoops. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this size. You can make it as big as you want. This is all going to be personal preference, but I want fairly small swoops. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going kind of halfway in between, and I'm using that first guideline. Okay. My thought process on using, that's a really good question, a flat tool versus a rounded tool, like the ones with the balls on the end. So when I am using a flat tool, it's normally for the larger dots or ones that I don't have to put a ton of paint on. When I know I'm going to have to pull a lot of paint on, I find that the rounded ones are usually a little bit, they're usually a little bit, they put a little bit more paint on. I like the shape of the dots a little bit better. So you tend to get little puckers every once in a while when you're using a flat tool because some air gets suctioned underneath there. So I just like the way that the rounded ones just kind of create a really nice little tiny, tiny ball that stays fairly nice and plump. Okay, so I'm still doing the dotting across for me at the poles, right? So my next one is here, and I want to kind of make sure that it's going to go across. See how this one here, it's good, but this one is kind of tilted a little bit to the left. I want to try and avoid that. So what I could have done ahead of time is just kind of line it all up. Oops, line it up across and see my line across there. That helps me a lot to know that I'm putting it in the right spot. Okay, so a little bit more paint on there, which is good. I'm going to pull in this swoop. I hope that answers your question, Rex. It's a really good question. Oops, there we go. I'm cleaning off the tools a lot as well. I found round is so much better for walking dots. Yes, I can't use the flat tools for walking dots. I've never had any success with that. I think if you were to do the walking dot effect, you'd almost have to switch out your tool sizes over and over and over again and dot them that way, as opposed to just walking the dots down like you can with the rounded tools. Very good point, Jan. Yeah, I never do walking dots with with the flat tools. So again, I'm going straight across here. Really good point though. Oh, what kind of, oh, so just a sewing pin. So just any kind of pin. I'll show you the pins that I have that I cut down. So I got myself a pair of snips like this with the little blade in there that you can snip them. So I took a sewing pin like this, and I literally just used the snips and I cut the end off, and then I grabbed it and I pushed it into the end of the racer. Good question, Victoria. Thank you for asking for that clarification. Oops, and I should pull this swoop down before it dries. You want to pull your swoops down before they dry, because the paint won't move very well if it's already started to dry. Okay. Did that help, Victoria? Let me get closer here again. Awesome. You're welcome. So I add a little bit extra paint sometimes too. I don't mind it having some extra paint in the swoops because I'm only going to pull some of the paint down, and I'm okay with it still being nice and thick the rest of the time. I'm cleaning off my tool after every single swoop, and I'm cleaning off the end of the pin. You can use anything you want to do that. You can use a damp cloth, a damp paper towel. I use my fingers an awful lot. I wipe paint on my hand an awful lot. Any of that stuff will work. Okay. So even as I'm sitting and painting this, I'm asking myself the question, do I want to do swoops the whole way out? How many rows of swoops do I want to do? And kind of thinking in the back of my head of what I think is going to come next. Now, I try not to do that too much. I try to quiet my brain and just say, doesn't matter what you're going to do next yet. You're still on this one. Just relax and enjoy the process. But that's easier said than done sometimes. The thing I would say is that if your thoughts start pulling you somewhere else and it's not enjoyable, pull your thoughts back to this moment. Right now, I don't need to know what's next. Right now, my only job is to enjoy this part of the process. That's my only job right now. Enjoy this part of the process. It's one of the big things that I really like about doing these dot mandalas is that it really nurtures the idea and the thought process of staying in the moment, right? It forces me to stay in the moment a lot, or it helps me to, I guess. A lot of the times too, I'll dip the tool and then I'll just chuck the tool on my face cloth and clean it after I've pulled the paint down. Or sometimes I will just hold the tool in my mouth until it's time to switch and clean it. You'll find the process that works the best for you. And I let myself really enjoy the colors, right? Sometimes when I sit and really enjoy the colors, I get the idea of, oh, you know what else would look pretty? Like pink to purple, or brighter colors. Maybe doing a neon one would be really, really fun. I kind of let my mind wander to what other colors I think I might like to do. And do I like this design enough to do it multiple times with other colors? Right? That's again why it's so important to kind of take stock of how are you feeling while you're doing it, right? You don't have to be trying new things every single time. You can be just doing the things that you really, really enjoy. And it can help inspire new ideas too, right? I find my inspiration comes to me the most when I'm just in this moment enjoying the process. I listen to music. A lot of times I will dot in time with the music. So your atmosphere really makes a difference, right? Especially, again, when you're doing it just for the sake of pursuing some joy, right? Makes the whole process an experience. I know I get good food around me. Audrey's comfy up on her tree. I turn on good music, or I turn on a podcast or YouTube videos, something that I find that I can just really let myself sink into the whole thing, right? Oh, I'm so glad, Victoria. That's my favorite compliment. The idea that I can be doing something that I love and that it's relaxing for other people, that's just amazing to me. I love seeing your creations too, you guys. So if you create something from this tutorial and you want to post and tag me in it, I would love to see it. Of course, only if you're comfortable sharing. You're welcome to send it to me in a message. If you have questions on, hey, this is what I'm working on, what would you suggest here? Just know that when you ask for my suggestions, one of the first things I'm going to ask you is, what would feel good? What do you want to do? Right? We get caught up in a lot of the shoulds. But then I'll also just tell you all the different options that I see in front of me. Well, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. Right? So that looks pretty good so far. Cute little swoops. So now we're going to the next green. And we're going to keep going with some more swoops. So at this particular point, I can ask myself, am I happy doing more swoops? If I'm not, then what do I want to do instead? Maybe I want to do some bigger dots and then do some walking dots around it. I can completely choose whatever I want to do, right? It is all about, what do you want to do? And that takes time. It takes a lot of time to really exercise that muscle of tuning into what do you want to do as opposed to what do you think I should do, right? That's the way my brain kind of goes anyway. We love the swoops, don't we? And I think this is going to look kind of cool. There's a lot of great artists that do a lot of really cool work with a lot of swoops. Electric Mandala is one of them. She's phenomenal. And she does some really, really cool stuff with swoops and color grades and color grade backgrounds and everything. And always remember that too, that just because it's something that you find beautiful doesn't mean it's something that you have to do. So even asking yourself the question of saying, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. I wonder if I'd enjoy doing that, right? Is this something that I enjoy appreciating, or is this something that I would enjoy doing? And let yourself go on those rolls, right? On those runs of doing what you enjoy. Oh, I'm really liking this though. I'm starting to see what it's going to look like when the next row goes in with the really bright green. Ooh, and it's going to look so pretty. It's going to have such a pop to it. So now, of course, I'm still thinking of, is there other detail I should be adding in here at some point? I'm not far enough along to know what this piece is going to need and what I'm going to want to do with it, right? Thank you, Kim. How are you? Your mess is just such perfect timing. I've been pushing to have stock to sell. I need to drop that for now. Oh, you're welcome, Rex. And it's something I struggle with every single day, you guys. And again, it kind of comes back to, why am I doing that? Is it because I need to sell stuff because I need to make money and I need to pay my bills, right? As opposed to, am I creating because I want the people who connect with my work to connect with it as well? And if I don't put my heart in it, those people will never find me, right? It doesn't take away the fear that's there and real life and reality and all of that sort of stuff. You still need to pay your bills. You still need to figure out a business plan and come up with certain processes and strategies and procedures and all of that sort of stuff. But it's still your business. The quote that has been a massive life changer for me since I started working with this guy in Australia for this course that I'm taking. It's called The Heart-Centered CEO, and his name is Tyson Sharp. If anybody wants to check out any of his stuff, he's quite the young man. But he always says to me, he says, it's not about, a lot of people will ask you, if you could do this any way you wanted to, how would you want to do it? He said, it's not if. Since I can do this any way that I want to, what do I want to do? And maybe, because then it opens it up, because then it's much more likely that you're going to have a day where you say, today I really want to put some time and effort into creating things that will create some recurring income for me, or create some quote unquote easier income for me so that I can relax more while I'm painting what I want. That's okay, right? But it's about being honest of where that's really coming in. Well, and the only way to hone those skills is to practice, right? For those of you who've been on a few of my tutorials, you'll hear this a lot. It's all about practice. The more you practice, the more you're going to figure out what do you enjoy doing. And if you don't enjoy the process that you're working on, the practice is really, really hard work, right? If I didn't enjoy doing swoops, this would be a really difficult project for me. So it wouldn't be a smart decision for me to work on it either, because if I'm not enjoying it, I'm going to put it aside a lot. I'm going to make excuses to not work on it as often. I'm not going to enjoy it, and I'm certainly not going to want to do it again. And when it comes to selling that piece, I'm not going to sell it well, right? And I've realized that from some of my own language, I've picked up pieces and I've shown people pieces and say, yeah, this is one that I made. I don't really like it though. Some of you that have been on my TikTok lives have heard me say that, yeah, I don't like this one. It's not great. It's all right. Nobody wants to buy that. Nobody wants to buy something that the artist doesn't even think is really nice, right? And it's not about picking apart your pieces. It's not about that. It's about just being aware of your mindset of how are you talking about your pieces? How are you talking to yourself? One of the other things that has always hit hard for me is let your inner voice be the kindest voice that you hear all day, right? Talk to yourself as if you were talking to someone you love. So Rex, when you find yourself looking at your pieces and saying, my skills just aren't there, I just need more practice. I have all these ideas, things that I want to do, but I'm not good enough yet. Well, however that dialogue in your mind is, try switching it around. I love trying new things, even if they don't work out, because even when I try something and it doesn't work out, I get so much clarity on what I do like, right? And when it becomes work, the practice is so much more difficult, right? Does that make sense, you guys? I've found that the days when, one of my big buzzkills is computer work. I hate it. I don't want to do it. I don't enjoy it. Like, this is how I talk to myself. I hate computer work. I don't like to do it. And even now, as I'm saying this, I need to change my language, right? I am less inspired doing computer work. So my mind is, okay, so I either need to not do computer work, but if it's something I need to do, how can I make it more inspiring for myself? How can I find the good in it so that I can find some joy and enjoy it, no matter whether it's something that I have told myself that I like or not, right? So, for example, one of the tasks that I have for myself this weekend is to go in and take a lot of my old images of some of the digital work that I've done and even some of the painted work that I've done and start building up some new products, right? Like putting it on t-shirts and mugs and wall hangings and floor pillows and all of that fun stuff. Those products are really fun. The part that I hated about creating them was my lack of knowledge in how to resize the image to get them into the right format and the right pixel dimensions. So instead of saying, oh, I have to figure this out, or this is never going to work, it's, okay, so today I feel like learning something new. And I'm okay if I sit for 5 hours until I figure it out. Or I can walk away at any time. But right now I feel like learning something new. So what is something new that I can learn that is not only going to help me as a human being, but as an artist? And what is going to help my work the most? And what is going to help my business the most? What is going to be that thing that I can do today that is going to point me in the direction of my goals? Right? And when you're thinking about art and creating, it does come back to this even when it's not a business, because if your goal is to create something beautiful, then you still need to do what you find beautiful. If your goal is to spend a few hours doing something you really enjoy because it just feels good, that's the ultimate goal, no matter how anything else turns out. So when you're looking to practice those skills that you don't feel you necessarily have yet, looking at it saying, today I'm going to practice this. Today I'm going to master it. I remember when I was a little kid and I wanted to learn how to jump rope, or when we were learning to ride bikes. There was those things that we did as a kid where I know when I was learning to jump rope, I stayed outside for hours. My parents had to call me in for dinner and I went right back out after because I wanted to keep going. Even video games, right? I remember when I got Zelda or when I get Super Mario Brothers, I want to beat it. I want to learn. I want to play it. So nothing else matters, right? It's the same kind of thing that you have to put into this too. And say, if I want to become an expert on that, then I'm going to practice it all day. So if this is something I want to do today and practice this particular skill all day, what fun projects can I work that into so that I can enjoy the process as much as possible? Right? I've made the comment to work on this art form every day, and I've noticed, yes, and talk to yourself like, I love doing this. I love being able to look back on previous projects and see how much I've grown. I love putting in a day of practice and seeing and feeling more comfortable with my skill at the end of it. I love putting effort into something that I love, Does that make sense? Is that too rambly? So I put it into my artwork every single day. I look at it and say, okay, what do I want to do? Because what I've come to realize, especially again when running a business with it, is that if it's something that I don't want to do, I either need to find something that's going to make me go, oh yeah, I do want to do that, right? Like I could spend a day on the computer. I don't want to do it. Okay, well, what if spending the day on the computer could start to generate some more income for you? Oh, well, I do want to do that. And it's just changing that perspective on how you do it. And it's the same with choosing these different patterns and stuff. Am I okay with just practicing, right? This is all just practice. There is not a single piece that I create that I don't feel totally okay with throwing in the garbage when it's done. If I get to it and I'm unhappy with it, I mean the ones that are, as I go, when I start a project, I say the worst thing that's going to happen is I'm going to get to the end of this project, I'm not going to like it, and I'm going to throw it out. Right? Does that make sense? So I'm going into it with no expectations. Even when I'm doing custom orders and stuff, I'm like, if it takes me longer, it takes me longer. If I have to try it 3 times, then I have to try it 3 times. That's okay. Drawback is when my hands hurt so much that I can't do it. That is a really, really tough one when there are physical limitations there. So maybe those are days, though, that you can still keep yourself inspired by looking through Pinterest, looking for different color inspirations. I have a Pinterest board that is full of thousands and thousands and thousands of color ideas. I spend a lot of time looking at that stuff, going through social media and searching for the stuff that I want to do, looking at Amazon and Etsy at all of these other different artists and getting some inspiration there. Maybe when your hands hurt, that's the perfect day to say, today is a day for me to do some serious self-care that doesn't have to do with painting. Maybe there's other parts of things that I want to do. I can start, balancing my books. I can take a nap. I can have a bubble bath. I can watch something that I really, really enjoy. I can meditate. I can read a book. Whatever those things are. It's all about listening to yourself on any given day to say, you know what? Nobody is going to die if I don't paint today. So how can I take care of myself? Right? It's really, really tough. So what else can you be doing when you are in pain? What can you be doing that still feels like you are working on your skill or your craft or your design or anything like that, that can still help you feel inspired and take your mind away from, oh, I really want to paint, but I'm in so much pain, to, I'm in pain today, so I'm going to look at this because that's going to give me some inspiration for when I can get back in paint. Yes, Pinterest is amazing, isn't it, Paula? Okay, I'm so excited for this one because we're going to do the green swoops. I'm so excited. This is going to be fun. Ooh, I like it. I like it a lot. I hope that this stuff is helpful, you guys. So how can you care for yourself, your mind, your heart, and your body on the days when you just are not sitting down to paint, right? I don't have the pain limitations, knock on wood, so I can't relate to that. I can only imagine how frustrating that is when you want to do something and your body won't let you. I think we've all had those experiences in one way or another. Oh, thank you, Bob Beer. I think we've all had those experiences in one way or another, right? When our body betrays us a little bit. But I do think that it's not about our body betraying us. It's about our body saying, I can't do that today. So let's find something that is good for the heart and the mind and the soul, right? And try and find something else that you enjoy doing that still keeps that inspiration going. That's when I'll watch some interesting documentaries or read an interesting book that can help me learn, or I'll work on a course or something. Like there's different things that you can do if you want to. And it's really, again, all about being in touch with yourself and saying, do I actually know what I want, right? These are the options in front of me. Which is the option that I want to go ahead with, right? Does that make sense? I'm loving this lime green though, you guys. Oh, that's a good idea, Renee. Yeah, get some graph paper and plot some patterns. Barb and Jan and Sharon, are you working on the lion as well? So a couple of the ladies found some really cool designs for dot painting, but it's like dot painting the face of a lion or a tiger or something like that. So yeah, finding something like that to do. Know what your limitations are physically, and know that you can find something else that you enjoy doing that can still keep that inspiration going while giving your body time to do what it has to do. I love to cook on days when my hands hurt too bad. Oh, fantastic. And then you don't hurt as much. You give yourself a bit of a break. You've got some really good food that you really enjoyed making and you're going to enjoy eating or sharing, right? That's wonderful, right? It's all about how can I take care of my mind, body, and soul, right? And the more we can listen to that and ask ourselves those questions and be really, really honest with ourselves, our mind gets very, very loud, right? This type of painting for me quiets my brain a lot. It lets me just sink in and just say, I'm just enjoying this so much. I don't even care what time it is. I don't care how much time has gone by. I don't care. I'm not hungry. I'm not thirsty. I don't have to pee, so I'm good to keep going, right? Yeah, that's amazing. And then on the painting days, if you have leftovers, then, you've got carryover from that too. There's so many options there. It's almost giving yourself permission to do whatever it is that you want to do, right? There's a lot of pressure in this world to be doing what other people think we should be doing. And there's these, societal programming stuff that just tells us that you should be productive. You should have gotten more done today. You should have been able to do this. You should have been able to figure that out. Should is a word that I would really like to remove from my vocabulary and focus more on I am, right? The other one that always hits me is we're human beings, not human doings, right? So how can I just be? How can I just be and enjoy whatever life is bringing at me? Okay, so back to the inner workings of my mind on this piece, because I just had an idea come up. I think it would be really cool to do another piece like this, and instead of the entire row, maybe alternate them like this. Wouldn't that be cool? So like imagine if that first row had been alternating the blue and then the teal, and then the next one was alternating the teal and the green, and then the next one was the dark green and the light green. There's so many different ideas that you could go with and play with them. Well, and we got a nice big dog burp for you. I hope the camera picked that up because everybody deserves to hear that. We got happy, sleepy puppies today. And we have a relatively quiet household today too, which is really, really nice. I had to go on a drive this morning to the store to buy some more mugs. And do you ever wake up in the morning and just, you start getting irritated over things that haven't even happened, conversations that haven't even happened, and just kind of getting stuck in there, right? And that's where my head was at today. You totally could do the spiral effect using swoops. I've never tried it. We'll have to try that one day. I'm guessing that what you would want to do is almost make it so like this dot here, you swoop it into this one and swoop it over to the side one. So for example, if I put the dot here, I would swoop it into the middle here. I don't know. We'll have to try that. No construction. Nope. No, it was quiet, quiet, quiet. But I just spent the whole drive just feeling ornery and feeling irritated all day. And what that tells me is that I didn't do what I needed to do before I got out of bed, which is center myself, take some breaths, set some intentions for the day, set some intentions for what I wanted to have happen, and most importantly, set some intentions for how I wanted to feel. There's an Abraham Hicks morning meditation that I listen to almost every day, and one of the quotes in that video that always hits me is, "Today I will look for reasons to feel good and I will find them. Today I will be more aware of my energy than ever before." There's so many great little affirmations that just make you feel lighter. But again, it comes into that self-awareness part. You know, I didn't have that self-awareness this morning to see that I was in this mood and it spiraled and it gained some momentum, right? Painting does take you away from that. It's one of the reasons why I look forward to doing these lives so much, Paula, because it's peaceful, right? It's peaceful. The stresses can't come at me. I have something to focus on. I can create something. You know, it's just kind of crazy. Painting forces you to breathe and focus 100%. My breathing slows down when I'm painting. I lose track of time. You know, those are, and for everybody, it's not always painting, right? And I count my lucky stars every day that I have something in my life that brings me that kind of peace and that kind of happiness. And if painting isn't your thing, that's okay. Watching painting is your thing, that's okay. But I would challenge you to figure out what are some of those things that you love to do just for the pure joy of doing it. Today I will look for reasons to feel good and I will find them. Hi, Autumn. Yeah, they do a lot of that stuff. You're right. You're totally right, Sharon. Yeah, Electric Mandala uses a lot of swoops in her spirals, doesn't she? So we'll have to try that one of these days. All right. Forget to breathe. Yeah, there are times where I'll catch myself holding my breath, right? And it's amazing to me how this art form forces us to pay attention to our bodies. So like even when I do forget to breathe and I hold my breath, right? Because I'm concentrating so hard, I hear my body loud and clear going, you just need to breathe. Just slow down and breathe. I can hear my body telling me that. Just slow down and breathe. Keep breathing. And it's usually when I forget to when I forget to breathe and I just hold my breath for a while is usually when I am painting to release something, right? To release some heaviness. Hi, Ashley. I haven't tried the swoops, but loving using rainbow. Yeah, rainbow mandalas are so fun. So fun. I hope this is helpful so far, you guys. So as I'm going through this process, I'm just constantly checking in with myself. What do I want to do next? How do I want this to work next? Right? These spaces now are starting to get a little bit bigger. So maybe I want to add in some other detail as we get going. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to keep going with this design until I feel like it's not a good choice. Once I get over the edges, I might decide that I don't like the look of them and I want to switch to dots. That's okay. Totally okay. You can do this any way you want to. So my mind is always going as far as how am I feeling? Asking myself that question. How does this feel? Do I like this? Am I enjoying myself? And I literally ask myself. And when I ask, I talk out loud to myself a lot. Like, this is so pretty. I really, really like this. Oh my goodness, I'm so much more relaxed. I'm so glad I got to do this today. Our words carry an awful lot of power, and the words can influence what we believe. And when we influence what we believe, life changes. Yay, Renee, I'm so glad. Okay, so now I have to decide, because I've used all my 5 colors, right? So let's have a little brainstorming moment here. So I started from left to right. In this one, I went from light to dark and then from dark to light. This one, I went from light to dark, dark to light, light to dark. So I've always done just reverse the order. So if I was going to follow that same kind of thought process here, I would go back and do the next row in this green. I don't know if I want to do that. My gut right now is like, no, more blue right now. Let's go. So that's what I'm listening for. If I don't get an answer, then I try it and see what the answer is once I get a dot of paint on the piece, right? I put too much paint on here as well. Can you guys see how this is bubbling up in the middle? This is probably going to crack. So already I'm watching this to say, okay, if this is not going to dry super flat and smooth like this one or like the teal one did because I went and put too much paint on there, then I'm probably going to do some top dots. So I could do top dots in these other colors, gradually getting up to green. Sharon's suggestion of doing gold would be beautiful and adding that for the different accents in there. So you start to kind of think of that sort of stuff. So I want to go back to blue. So instead of reversing my order, I just want to repeat my order again. I feel like this blue in here and this teal need a little more attention. So we're going to see more of that around the edges here. And we are getting close to the edges. So we are getting to a point where we're going to have to start going over the edge here. And that's okay. Okay, so now I need to get a slightly bigger tool. So this is the size of the dotting tool that I was using on the green swoops. So now I'm going to get out my other round tools, and I'll show you here. So I look at all my other round tools that I have. I usually have them sprawled all over the table, but it's also nice to kind of lay them out almost in order from largest to smallest. That can be a nice exercise too. So this one is there. This one is a little bit bigger, but not much. So I'm going to move that one out because it's pretty much the same as, So I had all these in my hand, right? So this one is pointed end. I don't want that one. This one is the small ball that I used for the inner ones. Don't need that one because I'm going for something larger. This one is definitely smaller. This one is way too big yet. I only want to go slightly bigger. So I'm going to look through these tools and I'm going to figure out which one. I'm missing a tool. How am I missing a tool? Is it hiding over here somewhere? I have a blue one of these acrylic ones. Must be, oh, there it is. Found it. And I got hair stuck in there. My hair falls out like crazy, so I've got hair everywhere. So looking over these tools, right, I want to choose one that's just slightly larger than the one that I used before. And I'm even looking at it going, do I want to go slightly larger or do I want to go quite a bit larger? So my gut was initially going to have me go from this size in the left to this size on the right. But I think I'm actually going to go, see how this one's just that little bit bigger again? I think I'm going to go with that one. And we'll try it. If it doesn't work, we wipe it off and we start again. That's the hardest part, to figure out the different sizes we'll make. And that's going to take a lot of trial and error. And as you get to know your tools, you'll start to kind of know where they're going to be. Honestly, I haven't used this pink or the blue in quite a while. I've been sticking a lot to these blue handled ones with the silicone brushes on the end. So this is another practice thing for me. I might do this one with the blue one and find out that it is way too big, much bigger than I want it to be. And I might go to the pink. Even now as I'm sitting talking here, just do the pink. Err on the small side, do the pink. But when I put this down here, it doesn't look like it's going to be that. No, okay, we're going with the blue. Again, trial and error. Doesn't work? That's all right. We can start over. So I'm going to start with ones where I still have access to the guidelines, because up here, if I was to go to this one, the guideline disappears in that little section. So I'm going to start here where I can see the guideline nice and clearly. And even that one is fairly thin paint, so it's not giving me a huge dot. And that's okay. But it's telling me that I might want to go even larger for the next one. And that's okay too. Okay, so let's keep going. It's really about playing with your tools, and all the paints behave a little differently as well too, right? So it's not only getting to know your tools, but it's getting to know your paints and getting to know what thin paint does with that tool compared to what thick paint does with that tool. Some people will actually create themselves a bit of a legend, and you could totally do that. You could take a thicker paint and a thinner paint, create dots with one size tool, label it, and you'd have a reference point to go back to. That's always possible too. Okay, so now we're going across. And this one is right on the edge. So I'm actually going to add a bit more paint. Okay, got lots of paint on there, so there's lots to pull down. My pin is in there at a little bit of an angle, so I'm always turning it to get it at the angle that's actually pointing down a little bit. I'm used to it now, but keep that in mind as well. That's where I tend to get stuck. Where do I go from here? Okay, so let's talk about some strategy then for you guys. So when you get to a point where you're like, where do I go from here? You've got a bunch of different options. First one is what color do I want to do next? Right? And really just sit and say, what do I want to do here? I really want to use that blue. Okay, so look at the options there. Do I want to do something big or do I want to do something kind of tinier detail? Right? You can do that question. If you don't have an answer to your question when it comes to the color, the other option is to do one of each. Like if I did one of those green swoops here and then did another one with a blue and see which one I think I like, you could even do 3 or 4 of them. That's the beauty of the black base coat, right? Because if you have done something that you don't think is going to work out, you can always pull it off and start over. right? So don't be afraid to try something and then have to wipe it off. It's not a big deal, right? You can always, always, always do that. So go a little easier on yourself. You don't have to be able to envision what the whole thing is going to look like all the time, right? Try it and see what happens. And if you don't like it, paint over it and start over. Doesn't mean it's going to be convenient. Doesn't mean it's what you want to do, but don't be afraid to do that. And again, stick with the black background while you're learning and while you're practicing, because that gives you a lot of freedom there to be able to go and fix things and go over it. Or whatever your base coat is, just make sure that if you white paint off and paint over with it, it'll cover it nicely. When I use white base coats, it doesn't work very well because I don't have a good opaque white paint. If I can ever find a good opaque white paint, I will definitely look at doing that, but I want to be able to easily cover up my stuff. Right? I honestly think I'll probably always do black base colors and maybe other stuff just because the colors pop so much and I get so much gratification from seeing the colors pop so much. So ask yourself those questions. What do you want to do? If you're unsure, run through your options. I could do walking dots. I could do swoops. I could do some micro dots. I could do a border around it. Kind of have that list of what are the go-to pieces of a mandala that you are comfortable doing or that you want to practice doing. Right? And then use that to help you filter into what you want to do. Do I want to do swoops? I'm not sure. Do I want to do walking dots? I'm not sure. Even just going through and talking through those options can help you go, how many times do I sit all the time and say, well, I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do this. And then a voice just gets louder and louder and louder in my head going, you know what one you want to do. Do that one, do that one, do that one, do that one, right? I have a few pieces I never finished because I didn't know how or if I should finish because it looks good now. And if it looks good now, you don't have to do anything. You use gesso? Oh, that's good to know. I've never used gesso on the stones before. I've put it on canvases, but I've never used it on stones. That's an interesting thing to try. Golden has good weight paint, yes. The thing, I went and I bought one, but I didn't check the opacity on it. Because they show it on the bottom of the paint and see how it's transparent. So always make sure if you do go and buy, don't just go for the brand. Make sure you look at the indications on the paint bottle to let you know if it's going to be opaque. These higher quality, more expensive paints like Golden, Winston and Newton, Wilson and Newton, whatever that other one is, they'll show you this sort of stuff. Even some of the Liquitex ones will show you if it's opaque or not. Don't rush through things the way that I do and end up buying something that doesn't work for you. So, Paula, if you think they look good now and you are happy with them, there is nothing else that you need to do. Does it make you happy when you look at it? When you look at it, does it feel unfinished? And really listen to yourself. Is it feeling unfinished because you've been looking at other people's art and think that you should be adding more? I ask myself that question all the time. I'm like, did you just watch a whole bunch of other people painting and decided that you need to do all of that too? And then you get stuck in this wheel and it's just not comfortable and you should have just left it the way it was? Happens all the time. All the time. So really ask yourself those questions and be really honest with yourself. Do I like it the way that it is now? Does it make me happy to look at it? Does it feel unfinished? And if it does feel unfinished, then start going through those. Okay, so here's my options. These are the things I could do. And really listen to yourself. I hope that that's helpful. Because I do that a lot, right? I'll go on this Pinterest, go down a Pinterest wormhole or an Instagram wormhole or TikTok or wherever, right? And I'll see all of this stuff. I'm like, oh, I want to try that. And I want to try that. And I want to try that. And then when I get to it and I'm like, well, I don't know what to do next. It's like, well, is it because they seem to know what to do next so easily? Do I think that I should know what to do? It's that should again, right? If you feel like I should know what to do from here, you do know. You just got to tune into yourself and ask yourself, how does it feel? And I think you're right, Sharon. I'm thinking gold for some accents in here once I get all of these swoops done, because we're going to have some spaces to fill in a little bit, maybe some micro dots in here. But we'll see how it goes. And even now, like I'm looking at the clock, we're not going to get this done in the next half hour. And that's okay too. I hope this has been helpful for mindset and thinking through this sort of stuff. I hope that it's been helpful. I really go on feeling, a lot of feeling. How does it feel? Because even when something doesn't go the way I want, I usually hear somewhere in my mind something going, ugh, that doesn't feel very good. And if it doesn't feel good, it's not the choice. Follow the stuff that feels good. Follow those instincts. Oh, I did a really bang-up job on this, and I'm going to have to scrape some of that off because it's like forming a nipple in the middle of this heart. Nobody needs to see that. Okay, we're making progress though. This one, I really like it. And again, I say stuff like that to myself all the time while I'm by myself talking out loud. I really, really like this one. Oh my gosh, this is looking so pretty. And then you get other ideas. Oh, you know what would look cool? I bet you it would look cool with greens and purples, or greens and hot pinks, or rainbows in the all swoops. That would look really cool. And you start coming up with these different ideas, right? And when you have a ton of ideas, that can almost be paralysis too, right? I've got so many ideas and I have no idea which one I want to do first. It's because you're not listening. I tell myself that all the time. If you were listening to yourself, you would know which one you wanted to do next. So, what is something you can do to get in touch with yourself and really listen? And some days that's really easy, and some days it's really friggin' hard. Some days I'm like, I don't want to talk to me. I don't want to talk to me. I don't want to hear the rationality. I don't want to hear the positivity. I don't want to hear any of that crap. I just want somebody to say, yeah, it sucks that you don't know what you're doing, right? Like you start to kind of figure out where your mind is at when you're trying to make these decisions. And it makes a big, big difference. Where is the unsureness coming from? I am a firm believer that your soul is sure of everything. And if we listen to it, we will be sure. Mm-hmm. Like for me, I listen to Jason Mraz, right? It helps me. I'm so glad I was able to tune in today. I need to scoot out a bit early because I have grocery delivery on the way. I totally get that, Rex. No problem. I'm glad you were able to come too. I'm really glad you were here. Thank you everybody for coming and joining. I hope that this has been helpful for you. I really do function on feeling, right? It's why even when I've got, my mugs, I'm very, very grateful that I have a bunch of custom orders that I get to do. However, this has been a really nice break from doing mugs. I like doing the mugs, but this is really nice, right? And giving yourself the time and permission to do stuff that maybe isn't what you feel you should be doing, but give yourself that time to just enjoy it. You make all my days brighter. Aww. Love you, Rex. Love you, Renee. Love you guys. I'm so glad you're here. And that is the best thing I could ever hope for. If there's something that you've always wanted to do, like if somebody asked you, like if you could do anything in the world, anything at all, and make a living from it, and it could be your job so that every morning you got up and you could every single day wake up and go, I am so lucky because I get to do something that I love, and I love what I do. What is that thing? What is that thing that you would do every single day if you could, if you're not already doing it? Right? I remind myself of that on a regular basis. Oh, we're going to start to go over the edge a bit here. I remind myself of that on a very regular basis. I'm like, I love what I do, and I get to do something that I really love to do all the freaking time. Now that little squiggle, that's a hair that's stuck in there. So I'm going to pull the paint down, see if the hair will come out, and then I'll go back in with a tiny brush after to cover up that little blip, the little Looks like a balloon string. Oh, there's the hair right there. So, this one is a big clumpy mess. So I'm going to grab one of my tools with the silicone brushes on the end, and we're going to pull this off. We're going to start over, and I'm going to remove the dog hair that is stuck to that too. Dog hair, cat hair, who knows anymore? Could be my hair, whatever. All right, so we're going to pull that off. I'm going to grab my black paint and my tiny paintbrush, and we are going to fix this. Your voice is very calming, and watching the swoops is mesmerizing. Oh, thank you, Kim. I'm so glad. Knowing that me sitting here doing this, if it helps anybody relax, I'm happy to do it. I so needed to hear this. I love the painting, but the words are resonating with me so much. I'm so glad. Oh, yay. I love it. I love it. Let's keep doing it. And this is the space where we can come to do that stuff, right? We can have these conversations. We can talk about how we're really feeling, Art is personal. Art is cathartic. Art is there to help us heal. And whatever that looks like for you, whatever that healing looks like, whatever that healing is that you need or you want or you're looking for, whatever it is, the way to help that stuff heal is to spend more time doing something that you love and really, really listening to yourself. The reason I was in such a crabby mood today, I wasn't listening to myself. Not even a little bit. I was fighting every single thing. Fighting all of it. Because I heard my inner self talking to me, saying, calm down, everything's fine. What are you getting so worked up about? This stuff isn't even actually happening. You're imagining things, right? There's ways you can kind of go in through those conversations and you can really figure out where are those feelings actually coming from, right? Ooh, I like this one. Ooh, it looks so good. Every time I have a little moment like that, I remind myself, I'm like, this is what it's about. Having those little moments of, ooh, look at it, look at it, look at it. Let yourself enjoy those moments. Milk those moments. Those moments are powerful. They raise your entire vibration. Renee, I am doing these tutorials every single Saturday. So exactly the same time as today, every Saturday. I'm going to be putting up some more topics because I try to post the topics of the tutorial before we go live. So keep an eye on my Facebook page in the events section, and all of the future topics will be there as well. If anybody wants a recording of this tutorial, you can, so these tutorials are always free to join live. But on my website, you will see a section of my website called called Facebook Tutorials, Paint With Me Tutorials. It is set up so that you can, tips are always welcome. So the recording right now is set up at a price of $1. Okay. Now, the $1 would be a tip. If you choose to tip $5 or more, so technically you'd have to go in there and say, I want a quantity of 5 to make the $5 amount. Then I'll send you access to the recording of this tutorial. All of my past tutorials are on my website as well. So if there's a previous tutorial that you won't think the topic would be helpful for you, then definitely go and check that out. The other option is if you go onto Patreon, I have a monthly membership there that you can pay a certain amount. I think it's $16 a month. And so the tutorials are $5 a piece if you buy them individually on the website. But the Patreon is $16 a month, and you get access to all of the past tutorials and all of the upcoming ones. So Patreon might be an option for you. I believe my Patreon is in my link tree that's in my bio. But if it's not, either shoot me a message and let me know, and I will try and remember to go in there and check that myself. But go to patreon.com and search Mandala Love Affair. We started at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sorry, Renee. So it's 9:45 at night right now, so it would have started at 8 o'clock 8 p.m. your time. Paula, lots of rehab hospitals have programs where people paint. We have one. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, it must be so moving to see what they create. I love that, Paula. I just emailed you the very question about the past ones. Okay, perfect. So yeah, so the Patreon might be a really good option for you. Save you a few bucks each month. You can cancel at any time and always go to the individual ones if you want to, but to access all of the past ones, you just sign up and it's $16 a month. You get all of the past and all of the ones coming up. Okay. But I always want to keep these lives free because I want anybody to be able to come and join in regardless of their financial situation, and to just be comfortable that, you know, it's worth a couple of bucks to you. But tips are always welcome. They're certainly not mandatory. And if you do choose to tip $5 or more, then I will send you the access to the recording. One other thing just to know, you guys, I have a giveaway going on right now on TikTok and on Instagram. So I am closing the entries for that tomorrow night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to enter the draw for the giveaway, I'm going to do giving away one item on Instagram and one on TikTok. You can enter on both, and you could technically win on both. So go and check out my Instagram profile and scroll back a couple comments. You'll see a big black background with my face on it wearing sunglasses. That's the giveaway post. Go and check that out and make sure you enter in case you are able to win something. And the other thing is that I also do digital work. So I draw some digital mandalas, and I've made some coloring pages that are on my website, and I have 12 different 5-packs. So they come in packs of 5. There's 12 different ones. And all the 5-packs are on sale for $1 as well. Excuse me. There are 8 packs in the coloring pages section of my website. And then there is also 4 5-packs in the adult language section, because I have drawn some mandalas with some curse words on them, and they're pretty fun. So yeah, so if you like to color and you like the idea of coloring some mandalas, excuse me, $1 a piece. So $1 for 5 coloring pages are on my website too, and they'll get immediately emailed to you. So Autumn, I will send you that link. I will respond to your email. I might have even replied right before this live. So just know that I will send you the link to the Patreon in a little bit. Okay. But if you go on to Patreon and search Mandala Love Affair, then you will find me as well. So now I'm trying to judge how far I have to put this out. This is the hard part by not having the guidelines way out here. This is winging it a little bit. So I'll probably go in with a pencil after and kind of create some guidelines, because I think the one that I did here was too small. So let's see. I mean, I hadn't completely decided if I was going to do these over the sides, but I think obviously I'm going for it. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to grab my pencil. Where's my pencil? So yeah, let me know if you have any questions at all too, okay? Seriously, I just had it. How does this happen? All right, I guess we're using yellow then. Thank you, Jan, for sending me 2 pencils. Must have known that me as a human being, I'm probably gonna misplace one pretty quickly. Yeah, this should have gone out. I'm gonna try out here. This is just eyeballing it too, right? So I'm just trying to kind of eyeball where this is going to go. I think that looks pretty good. So there's that one. I see it a little bit there. So this is going off the side here. And then going back up here. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. So I just drew that little bit of a line on there. You're welcome, Renee. And then we're going to go down here. So there we go. So I drew those lines. They're going to be a little bit off. Like this one is a little bit off, so I'm probably going to pull that dot off, actually, that swoop off. And then I'll paint over that one and do that one over. So I'm going to fix this one. If anybody has any other questions, we got about 5 minutes left. So if you have any questions, please let me know. If questions come up afterwards, shoot me a message on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, wherever you can, and let me know what questions I can answer for you. Shoot me an email, mandalaloveaffair@outlook.com. That's an option too. For those of you who have already purchased this one, I believe it's Sonia. If you're still here, I'm going to upload this to, and get this all set up and ready to go, tonight. So I'm hoping to be able to email this, put it up on my Patreon and email it to anybody who's purchased it by end of day tomorrow. But at the absolute latest, I also live in the middle of the country, so if my internet betrays me, then that might be a bit of a delay. But I will get it emailed to you no later than end of day on Monday Eastern. At the absolute latest, but I'm going to try and get it done for you tomorrow. So any questions, please let me know. I'm going to let this dry a little bit before I keep going on it, but not bad for a design on the fly, eh? So, and one thing I just want to show you is, see how I'm getting all these little bumps in the blue paint? That's telling me that the blue paint is a lot thicker, right? So I might have clumped it on a little bit too high. What is the water gypsum powder ratio when you pour into your mold? So I do 2.5 of the gypsum to 1 of water. So if I add a cup of water, I add 2.5 cups of gypsum. You can start with your hands. I start with a silicone spatula, and it should give you a fairly milkshakey kind of consistency. You're kind of looking for that. Make sure you tap out your molds an awful lot to get those bubbles out too, eh? All right, you guys. Well, let's call it a day, because I think we're kind of at a natural stopping point here. Only a couple minutes left. If you have any questions, please reach out. Remember that the recordings are available on my website or on my Patreon. Coloring pages are on sale for $1. I've got the giveaway going on Instagram and TikTok, and I think that's about it. Milkshake gypsum, right? Wouldn't that be yummy? Oh God, a milkshake would be so good right now. I don't think the gypsum would be a little chalky, little chalky, but a milkshake would be good. All right, you guys, thank you again for coming to hang out. I hope that this was helpful for you. Any questions at all, please don't hesitate to ask. And tonight I'll be putting up my schedule for my TikTok lives for this week. So I will post that on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok as well. I'll get that schedule out there. You're most welcome, Renee. I'm so glad you guys had a good afternoon with me. Thank you so much for hanging out. Sending you lots and lots of love. And yeah, I'll look forward to seeing you next time. I think next week is going to be 3D designs for the tutorial. So that's going to be a really fun one. I can't wait. It's going to be one that looks like, I wonder if I have it out. No, I don't have it out. I'll post a picture so you can see. All right. Bye, Jerry Lynn. Bye, everybody. Bye, Sharon. Bye, Barb. Bye, Paula. Bye, Renee. Everybody, thank you so much again for spending this time with me. And I'm sending you lots and lots and lots of love. Go kick some ass and spend some time doing stuff you love. Oh, thank you, Victoria. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you were here. Thank you for joining us, and I appreciate the love. All right, you guys, have a good rest of your day. Love you. Bye.